Hey guys, what's up? You know, many of you have been asking, hey, we would like to know more about what you've done to the motorhome. What did you guys do during that 18-month period when you were transitioning from living in the house to getting ready to go full time? We'd like to know a little bit more about the mods you made, the upgrades, and so forth. We're going to cover all that right now. Coming up on RV Street. We have a 2012 Winnebago Vista 35F, and we bought it used. It was a 2012 with 18,000 miles on it, and it was about 3.5 years old or so at the time. I wanted to completely go through this coach, make some mods and upgrades to make it better and easier to live in once we get on the road. So when I got ready to do this video, I had two objectives. Number one, I had to do anyway a full comprehensive video for the insurance company. In the event anything catastrophic ever happened, I have a documented video of everything that we have done. The second thing is I wanted to answer your questions. I took that comprehensive insurance video and I pared it down to the most important things that we did that would be interesting to you guys, but it still came out pretty long. But I divided it up into 3 parts. Part 1 is what we did to the outside of the coach and the engine bay. Part 2 is what we did to the battery bay, solar panel, propane, the generator, under the chassis, and a few other things. And 3, what did we do to the inside of the coach? Now, I'll say I put a lot of thought into what needed to be done to this coach. And yes, this series, you're going to tell, I'm proud of it. I've worked really hard to make this as best as we possibly could and make it look as nice as we could. So yeah, I'm proud. This series covers a lot of important things. No pretty exploring pictures and running down the rapids or fancy editing. So let's get right to it. I'm going to begin part 1 while starting on the roof. It's a solid fiberglass roof, but it was already about 4 years old, going on 5. And we knew we were going to be in a lot of sun and stuff like that. So I ended up putting on I stripped the whole roof and put on a coating. And I also, which is very important to do, is to get into all the sides, the seams right in here. This seam, especially on Winnebagos, where you have this rounded crown where it meets this gutter, this can separate, and this is a maintenance item that needs to be looked at. So the first thing I did is I went all around the entire roof, dug out all of the old material, and resealed it with the proper type of sealant all the way around on both sides, and also the end cap and the front cap. The next thing I did is I took off both air conditioning shrouds, and inside there completely cleaned the condensing coil, tucked away all of the wiring, cleaned the pulleys, did the front fan area, and just completely reworked them. I replaced all of the vent lids, so that when you're inside the coach and you crank the vent up, if you don't have these additional covers and it starts to rain, guess what? You're getting rain in the coach. This way, with these covers, you can leave the vents open, you can leave the coach, you can be gone all day or whatever, and if it rains, no water in the coach. So there's 1, 2, and 3 of those. The next thing I did is I replaced the OEM toilet vent covers. Normally those are just a round PVC cap on there. They do not vent well. And so I decided I was going to change these to what they call vent 360s. These are 360s, and they vent a whole lot better than what the factory calls for. This is the refrigerator vent. This is in the back of the refrigerator. You have a cavity, and this is where, if you remove this top, this gives you access to the top of the refrigerator. I took this off, cut that out, the wire, the mesh that's on top of that area, and put fans in there and also in the bottom, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. But this, and in this area here too, if you remove this cover and remove the mesh, when they install these refrigerators in an RV, they have a void area. It's called a baffle. And they leave that baffle open. And that is not the way you're supposed to do that, because hot air gets trapped in those void baffle areas and the refrigerator cannot vent properly. So I blocked all that void area off so there would be a continuous drafting of the hot air in addition to the fans, and it keeps that back area well ventilated. And the reason I did that is that refrigerators are one of the top 4 reasons of fires in motorhomes or in RVs in general. So I knew that the refrigerator had a lot of work to do. This is what I did on the top part. I'll show you down below when we get down there what I did to the bottom part. So to go into a little bit more depth about the refrigerator, as I said up top, if you were to go and look at this void area all the way up there, I blocked off all those baffle areas that collected and held hot heat, installed a fan up there, installed another fan down here, and then I installed what they call an ARP unit. You can see it right there. And you can see it blinking. About every 5 seconds you'll see that red light. And that means it's working. Now what the ARP unit does is it's wired into the main control box, and it controls the furnace, because this is what happens when RV refrigerators fail and catch fire, is that these heaters get too hot, it's touching the sidewall, too much heat builds up in here, and you have a heating failure. Norcold and Dometic and other manufacturers have issued recalls and tried to give you little patches that you do up here in the box, but those have proven not to be reliable. They just don't work well. So what this ARP unit does, just that little unit alone and these 2 fans, were about $250, but it overrides and controls the heating unit. It will not allow it to get too hot. As soon as it starts to warm up, the ARP unit sends a signal to the fans start coming on, it drafts and pushes all the air out the top. It keeps the furnace from getting too hot, and our refrigerators all the time kept at about 35, 36, 37 degrees. This ARP unit is a safety, it's a really big safety issue. And I'm just really glad that I took the time to learn how to do this and how to install it, and I'm really happy with it. The next thing I did is this is the bathroom window, and I went ahead, as you can see, around all these different areas. I redid all of the sealant around all of this window and all the vents and everything down there. That was also part of what I did. But I also taped off and I painted this same coating here onto here to block out a lot of the light, because this is a big area where heat comes in and warms up the back of the coach. This was a big aid to keep a lot of the heat out. And I'll show you what else I did inside the shower. The big thing we did last year, which was 2018 when we were in Florida, is we went to, I think it's Provos, but it's a company that makes their own 19 millimeter thick topper material. They're an awesome company. And so we went ahead, we had your regular OEM slide toppers, the awnings and all of that, and they needed to be replaced. They were getting old, they were starting to crack. And so I said, you know what, we're just gonna get all new toppers, all new awning, and install 3 window awnings. So this is the bedroom slide awning, and then this is the main awning, the large patio awning. So I lock this main awning roller so it cannot unfurl while underway, and then additionally I put a locking pin in this arm, so this thing is well secure while underway. And then this is the slide topper. The last thing that we did up here on the roof is we installed a wee boost. A wee boost helps us to get a better, stronger cell signal when we are in areas that have a very weak signal. I mounted that to the staircase and then ran the cable down the side and onto the wet bay where we have a cable connection there. When we ordered these window awnings, we wanted the new main awning fabric to match. So they actually ordered extra material from Carefree, and they stitched and made a custom awning for us, and then used that same gray material right at the top. They put 16 inches of material up there, the same stuff that's made from the slide toppers, so that when the awning is rolled up, that whole awning is protected from the sun. I wanted to put a metal shroud type of an awning cover on there, but our motorhome could not take that, so we ended up using that protective material instead. Does the same job. And then we also went ahead and put this extra shade cloth here, and then that way when we're sitting somewhere permanently, we have an additional piece that zips along here, and this whole thing will come out and will give us shade all the way out here about 8 feet in the kind of a triangular section, and then give us more of a private shaded area. We went ahead and had RV Sunscreen Company make us window shades for the side, the front, with windshield wiper covers, and also on the driver's side. And then we had them also make one for inside of the shower skylight to, again, as a second barrier to block out all that heat that comes in. Underneath the sunshades, I had the driver's window, the brow up on top of the windshield, and the driver window tinted. And boy, what a difference that makes. When we take all these sunscreens off and now we're underway and we got that bright sun coming in from the side or in front of us, that brow and tinted windows makes all the difference in the world. On the driver's side, we have the 16-foot slide. And again, it's the same matching window shades. And we just love these things. They not only give us a lot of privacy, but they really knock out a lot of sun. One thing that I had to tackle when we first bought this coach, it had 18,000 miles on it. It was a little over three and a half years old. And the fellow that owned this had this side, the driver's side, parked in it at his house with it pointing to the south. And so this side got a lot of sun. And it was just beginning to oxidize, which is not a big deal. It doesn't hurt the fiberglass if you don't let it get out of hand, but it was just beginning to oxidize. And I compounded, polished, and waxed the whole entire outside. I had a contractor bid on it, and it was going to be about $4,000. And I'm like, no. I've got a lot of experience doing stuff like this. I'll take care of it. Now, I did have to rent the scaffold material. I did have to buy the buffer and the materials, the polish, the compound, and so forth. But I did this whole thing for about $1,000, and I did it my way. And it really, it just brought out the shine just like it's brand new. I mean, it's just like night and day. Now, during this time, since this side here was on the sun, there was a big maroon graphic right here in this. You see this big white area here. It was, you see the cracks in this one here? It was twice as bad as that. So I went ahead and just removed that graphic and compounded out that, because that graphic did leave a little bit of a ghosting in there, but I was able to compound polish and wax that out of there. But other than that, the graphics are in really, really good shape. And you can just see the shine. I mean, this was one of the things I was just really so proud of. The next thing we'll cover is the tow package here. I will just say that there are a lot of options on how to do this, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to spend the money, get the right equipment, and do it right. Because if something goes haywire here while you're towing a car, it can be catastrophic, it can hurt people, and this is just an area that you do not want to go cheap on or just throw something together and do it. Different states have different state laws on what they require. Some require an emergency breakaway cable, some don't. Some require that your tow vehicle have an extra brake set, some don't. So if you're going to be traveling around the country, it's just best to set it up for wherever you go, you're going to be good to go. So let me go over on what we did here. We ended up buying a Ready Brute Elite tow bar. And the reason for that is this has a built-in braking system in it. And that braking system is right in this area here. So when this is opened up and hooked to the car, and I go put on the brakes, the momentum of the car pushes, this slides forward right in here and applies brakes. It's activated by this lever right here, and this lever is connected to the car and so on and so on. But we decided, you know, like I said, there's so many different kinds of tow bar and braking systems. The weight of our car and the needs of our car, we thought, you know, we're just going to kind of overkill it. This particular tow bar is rated for 10,000 pounds. Our car weighs in loaded at about 2,800. But we really liked this braking system. And our car, I mean, when we hook this car up, all we got to do is put it in neutral, take off the emergency brake, and we're good to go. There's no other battery switches, disconnects, nothing. Well, the next thing I did is, you know, we tow our bikes. And I was like, well, I need to incorporate, you know, pulling our bikes too. And then when we turn, the bike tires and everything won't hit the car. So it really took a lot of thinking through and measurements and what kind of hitch we needed. I ended up getting a 2-inch drop tow bar, because you want your tow bar and your car to be even. You do not want it to be pitched up or pitched down. You want to get it as even as possible. And most tow people, manufacturers say no more than 3 degrees. Well, I didn't even want that. I wanted that thing straight across. And so it took a lot of thinking about how this was all going to work. Well, once I did that, there was a lot of rattling. You could take and shake this here and it would rattle in here. You know, there's always a little slop. So I ended up buying also these, I forget what you call them, but they're hitch clamps. I put one here where it ties into the motorhome. I put one here where it ties into the bike rack. And then I put another one here where the tow bar and braking system hooks into. And I also put locking pins on here so nobody can jack with them at all. So it is it is solid. There is absolutely no play. Well, when we bought this Ready Brute Elite, you've probably seen it on many different motorhomes. It also comes with cables, coiled cables. The cables hook up here on either side of the hitch, and the other side hooks to the car. They're safety cables. In case the tow bar ever came unhitched, at least you've got cables. I didn't like those cables. I've read a lot about those cables, and when you start getting a car swinging back and forth, and I'm not going to get into all the physics of that, but I decided, you know what, I'm not doing that. I'm getting chain. So I got some really heavy chain, but it is way heavier than what we need for our car. And then I went on Amazon and I got these nylon sleeves to keep them covered. And so now we don't have cable, we have chains. And I also bought some new S-hooks to easily snap onto the car. It has an emergency breakaway cable. So if everything fails, if it comes off unattached from the car here, the chains happen to fall off, and the car is now wheeling back there all on its own, this cable will pull the brake on the car and it'll come to a stop wherever it is. And then we have the bike rack, which holds 2 bikes, and they are locked down on the frame here and here. And then we use 4 bungee cords and a cover when we're underway. And here's the way the whole system looks, all hooked up. Here is our wet bay. We've done a complete video on this. You can watch it right up here. We bring in our source water that has a blue water filter right at the source. Then it comes up here to a 2-stage SETI 0.5 micron carbon filter. Then it goes in through our water softener, and then all that goes into the coach. So our whole entire coach has softened, filtered water, and it protects our hot water heater, our appliances, our faucets, and we drink it, we shower with it. I mean, it's excellent tasting, good, clean, safe water. Next to the wet bay is our electrical bay. And in here, once again, when I first got the coach, I took our transfer case, I took that cover off and made sure that all those connections are nice and tight in there. This is a very common thing. When you have a coach going down the highway and rattling and bouncing and going at hurricane force winds, that transfer case and all those big wires coming in there, those can get loose. This is a PM item and should be checked about once a year. But I went ahead and tightened up all those, and while I was at it, I installed an EMS system. This is from Progressive Industries. This is a surge protection unit, 50 amp protection. So I have it hardwired in. So when we go to a campground, we first test the post, just as a secondary precaution. Make sure the post is good. If the post is good, we plug in, and then we have this unit here as a secondary to protect all of our electronics and protect electricity coming in here. You'd be surprised how many times you'll get power outages from either a storm or the campground shuts it down for repairs or whatever. And this just protects all the electronics in your coach. I wanted to show you, I was so surprised when we went and looked to buy this coach. This coach, this is all metal underneath the slides. And it's on all of the bays. Inside the bays, it's all underneath in the chassis. All the bottom is this hard metal. And I don't know, some of you have seen a lot of motorhomes or fifth wheels and just RVs in general that have slides. This would be a soft kind of a fiber board, and over time it gets soft and it warps and it leaks. And when I crawled underneath this thing when we were looking to buy this and I saw all this, my inspector and I said, man, I have never seen this before. And this was one of the big things that sold me on the quality of, how solid these slides were. And that was really important to me. We have 2 12-volt breaker areas. This outside breaker area is for all outside stuff. The slide outs, the control steps, and the awning, and so forth. Well, the problem with this panel is it's right behind the front wheel. And I've done a lot of reading on people having trouble with this fuse area, this fuse box area, because the front tire will throw water up and behind the tire into this box, leaks in the box, and gets water all in the electronics behind the box. So what I did is I completely sealed the outside of this box. Up underneath here, I completely sealed it, and with caulk, with silicone in all the on all the edges, and then I bought 3 cans of rubber spray sealant and totally rubberized the whole outside of the box and waterproofed it. And then in addition to that, I built and installed 4 long mud flaps. This is on both fronts and backs. And there are the backs. And there's another shot of a rear mud flap. I made all 4 of them. In 2017, I replaced these with new Toyo, all 4 new Toyo 122s. And I also installed Centromatic rings to keep them balanced. Love those rings. And then when we bought it the year before, in 2016, we put on the new Michelins, and they also have the Centromatics on both of those. So continuing around the outside of this motorhome, not only did I change the front headlights to LEDs and polished and compounded those lenses, but all of the running lights all the way around the outside, including all up there and all down the sides and the back, I changed all those to LEDs. I did the inside also. The inside alone had your typical incandescent lights. Changing them out to LEDs, there were 78 of them. And I don't remember how many there is outside here. You know, just all the brake lights, running lights, the crown lights, the headlights, probably another 2 or 3 dozen lights. But so the whole system now is LED and pulls a whole lot less amps. And, you know, it makes your batteries last longer when you're boondocking or whatever. The next thing I did here is you'll see this front mesh here. OEM is this wide hexagon type shape, but it's very wide. I mean, look, you can almost put your finger through that hole. Well, when you're driving in some of these areas, Florida for one, the South, Arizona, whatever, these bugs will get through there and they will totally clog up your radiator, cause you to get overheated and so on. So I ended up putting in 1/4-inch chicken wire mesh behind that. It does not obscure any ventilation of air, but boy, it sure keeps my radiator clean. The next thing I did is this air cleaner right here has 2 intakes, one on the side here and then one in the front. This front had a horn scoop very similar to this here, but the problem is that when the hood was down, as I will show you, when it rained, the water would hit right on this lip and it would suck right into that air filter. So as a preventative measure, I went ahead and just put a PVC elbow there. Still gets the same amount of air, but it doesn't get any water. When we first got the coach, the very first thing we did, other than the roof, but mechanically the first thing I did, is I took it to a friend of mine who's got one of the best shops in Houston, and I had them completely change and flush every single fluid in here. I had to establish a baseline. I had no idea what the previous owner had done. I knew this coach was, you know, we were going to keep this coach. We're getting ready to go around the country, go full time. I don't want any issues. So I went ahead and had all the fluids changed and flushed. Had the AC checked. It checked out great. That the other thing that I did up here in the engine was change the main belt. You know, when you're fixing to go full time, you don't want to have any issues. So I've checked all the hoses. I replaced the main belt and cleaned all up underneath here so it runs cool.
and I changed all the plugs. I took the doghouse off. I changed all the plugs, and I actually found a hose up there. This is another one of those things. I found a heater hose that was going around a corner, and it was rubbing in there, and it had only been months, weeks or months later, it would have cut through there. I would have blown a heater hose, and antifreeze would have went all over. So again, when you get a coach, you don't know how it's been taken care of. It's always good to spend several hours going over all these little things, and you'll be amazed on what you can find that you can avoid a catastrophic or a roadside issue down the road. And the last thing I've done to this engine is install 5-star tune, which really helps the transmission in its shift points as you're going over varying kinds of terrain. We also installed LED lights up underneath the awning there. These are what they call boogie lights. These are really cool. I installed these myself. They're multicolored. They're controlled by a little handheld. You can get one, you can control them with an app on your phone with Bluetooth, but then when you upgrade your phone or your whatever, now the app doesn't work, and I just don't like stuff like that on my phone. You can see that they just came on. You can change the brightness, you can change the color, and I probably should show you this at nighttime, but anyway, I ran that wiring down my slide arm, and then went into the slide through the wall and connected it down here in my battery bay. Okay, well, that pretty well covers the outside of the coach and the engine bay. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'm going to cover the battery bay, the portable solar, propane tank, generator, under the chassis, what we did under there, and a couple other things. Oh, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps our channel. That's it for now. Until next time, this is RV Street. Stick around.